The Holy Tome has arrived. Adeptus Mechanicus, 9th edition. Let's do this.
Anvil of War! Review Rollout!
Hey guys, and welcome back to Anvil of War Gaming. Today, we're talking about Codex Adeptus Mechanicus for 9th edition Warhammer 40k. Super excited about this book. I have been reading through it. Admittedly, this video is a little delayed in comparison to a lot of other channels, but I really used that to my advantage to try to read through it and understand as much as I could, and give you guys sort of my opinion on the great combinations, the great synergies, and sort of just really how this army is really going to feel on the tabletop in this new edition with this new codex. Big shout out to Red Dragon in Orleans, Ontario. Thank you to you guys. They are our sponsors. There's a link in the video description below to their web store. They provided us with a copy of this book so that we could review it for you guys today, as they support us in so many other ways and are constantly helping us bring content to you guys. So support us by supporting them. Thanks, we appreciate it. If you're enjoying our video content, please make sure to hit the subscribe button down below and let us know that you want us to keep making some more content. Now, with that being said, let's hit the table and crack this book open. And here we are, the Adeptus Mechanicus Codex. Now, a couple things I got to say about this. We are a little late to the game as far as releasing a Codex review for this. Just some life stuff, work stuff. The day job got in the way, and I had to, I just couldn't get around to getting a review done. So it is a little delayed getting out, but I did use that to my advantage and thoroughly read through this book, find some combos that we're going to talk about as we go through it. So very cool book, and just the right off the hop, I mean, new cover art. We love when they change the cover art for our codexes. So this one was done, I think this piece was done by Lewis Jones, and fantastic artist, and you'll see some more stuff throughout, as well as some very talented other artists. Here we go, the Adeptus Mechanicus. You got your contents. There's that cover art again. A little blurb. This is a really cool piece. I think that's an Adrian Smith. I'm a big fan of some of his, especially his chaos drawings. I know that's heresy, but yeah, beautiful. And then we have some lore. And then get into the Red Planet, explains Mars. Then we get into, here we have all of the different holy orders, which is it's existed. It's always existed, but now it's translated by rules on the tabletop as well. So we're going to get into that when we get to it. Talks about the Scutari legions, and then we have all of the various different weapons used by the Scutari. Pretty cool little sketches. I'd like to frame a piece of that art on the wall. And then we get into Warzone Metallica. So all the codexes so far released have all had these war zones, and the Caradon system. We have Warzone Metallica, so I mean that carries over from the Caradon campaign, so pretty cool. The Arcane and Ancient. Just talking about all the different sort of parts of the Adeptus Mechanicus, all the different various units, and a little bit of lore on each one of them. Legio Cybernetica. Castellan robots. I've got a lot to say about them, especially the changes. There's so many changes, guys. Sweeping changes. Explorer fleets. That's really cool. Cool little blurbs on them all. And then we're getting into all of the different Forge worlds. So we've got Mars. Talking about Big Belly himself. Lucius, Agrippina, Styges, Goriah, Metallica, Ryza, and then we have some lesser known, we'll say, really cool paint schemes to kind of mirror if you don't want to do your own thing. And then we got a little bit of a story. I love these little stories. If you read through these, whenever they put these little short stories in the codexes, they're always worth a read. It's good, just inspiration for when you're motivating yourself to put together your army and paint it. I mean, there's also beautiful stories that you can find written by from the Black Library, or you can find an audiobook and listen to it as you paint. Just something I enjoy to do. And we have various scenes of battle. It's kind of nice to see all the different schemes painted up for units, and they obviously painted up some small armies. The Eevee Metal team. Very cool. Yeah, this is a really cool little battle scene here. We've got, looks like they're fighting on almost like docks over water. This is really cool. You see the Scorpius, they're all just kind of hovering over top of the water and then deploying onto the docks, fighting the Chaos Space Marines, purging the heretics in the name of the Emperor and the Omnissiah. There we go. All right, and we're getting into the rules. Now, here we have an example combat patrol, and this is the actual new combat patrol box. Great value if you're just getting into the army. Everything in this box is something you're probably going to want in your collection at some point or another. So why not kick off by, jumping in with this. The engines here got a big buff too. Him and the Doomcrawler are going to pair off really well, just from a rules aspect. But yeah, we get into detachment abilities. Okay, so here we have some new rules. Not really new, just some changes. I mean, the Forge World Dogma is obviously if all of your units in that detachment, so you can't have multiple Forge Worlds within your army, but if every unit within the detachment has the same Forge World, then they gain the Dogma special rule for that detachment. So it is interesting because it does allow you to kind of mix and match a little bit without real penalty. The Knights of the Cog special rule just basically allows you to include a Questoris Knight in your army in a super heavy auxiliary detachment, and they gain the Knight of the Cog keyword. Now, I don't know, I find that I personally like to run a super heavy detachment with a couple armigers, and then my Crusader HAL 9000, 9,000, 5,000, 9,000, HAL 9,000. God, he hasn't seen table in so long. That's why I'm... Anyways, when we are running them on the tabletop, you have to remember it's a super heavy auxiliary detachment. Hopefully they FAQ that. But yeah, and then moving on into the Forge Worlds. So here we have all of the different various Forge Worlds. We're going to get your Relic, your Stratagem, and you're going to get a Warlord trait for each of them. And then you get your Forge World specific dogmas. So kicking it off, of course, it's got to be Mars. I mean, their dogma is amazing. They're going to be the most popular still, I think, to take. But there are some contenders as far as just various ways to build your list. And the Mars sort of typical call castle has been torn down. It is no longer as potent as it once was. Well, I shouldn't say it isn't as potent, but it's going to be represented completely differently on the tabletop, I think. I think you're going to see a lot more of the Skitarii units on the table, less Castellan robots kind of castling up with Call and Manipulus and all that fun jazz. So their dogma specifically... Skitarii units in the dogma gain the Canticles of the Omnissiah ability. So obviously that is a bit of a change. Skitarii benefited from Canticles of the Omnissiah before. They no longer do. They got their own special rules. But if you're taking Mars, doesn't matter. They gain both. So It is a strong rule, and you are going to want to try to build your list to that. And then each time a unit in this dogma is selected to shoot or fight, it can reroll one hit roll when resolving this unit's attacks. Now, it's kind of a toss-up because that's kind of making you want to take minimum size units, but with the loadout changes for a lot of your units, it's going to kind of make you ponder whether or not to take large units or small units to maximize the benefit of that rule. So it's just kind of interesting. Warlord trait is basically in your command phase, you can select one friendly Cult Mechanicus core unit within 6 inches of the Warlord. If you do so, then select one Canticle. This cannot be one that has already been active in your army. Until the start of your next command phase, both the Warlord and this unit benefit from the selected Canticle instead of the one that's active for your army. It's kind of cool. There's some contenders with that, so I don't know if you will end up taking it, but it's not bad. But I don't know if it's going to be your best option. And then we have the Red Axe. So this is pretty potent. +2 strength, AP -5, damage 2. Obviously, you're switching out the Omnissiah axe on this. It's same as it was before, but the +2 strength, AP -5, damage 2. I mean, AP -5, I find that a lot of stuff that has really high armor saves like that's probably already got an invuln as well. So the -5 is going to be kind of situational, but what's really great with this is each time the bear fights, it makes an additional 3 attacks with that weapon. So you can get some pretty beefy, hard-hitting dominuses with that, which is kind of can throw your opponent off guard. And then we have Wrath of Mars. Now you'll notice it has changed 1 command point / 2 command points. It has changed significantly. So you use the stratagem in the shooting phase when a Mars unit is selected to shoot until the end of the phase. Each time a model in this unit makes an attack, an unmodified wound roll of 6 inflicts 1 mortal wound on the target in addition to normal damage. But it's up to a maximum of 6 mortal wounds. Still in the shooting phase, still doing mortal wounds, but maximum of 6. This is why one of the reasons that the Castellan castle has fallen a little bit. So. And it's just important note, if this unit has a power rating of 11 or more, the stratagem costs 2, otherwise it costs 1 command point. This is big. I can't emphasize how big this is, because now you're going to, although you were always maybe casting it on your robots because you were getting so many wounds, but now you can start looking at the potential of your other units, like your infiltrators and even the Taraxi, anything that can toss out a whole bunch of shots and maybe not necessarily high strength. These are the guys that you're going to be targeting with a stratagem like that. And most of those units, or pretty much all of them, even at max strength, are under a power rating of 11. I mean, a max squad of Rangers or Vanguard is now under a power rating of 11, and they've gone up to 20-man squads. So there's a lot of prime targets with this stratagem. You're going to be using it every phase. So that's, if you think about that, I mean, if you use the right units, you're going to be doing 6 mortal wounds every turn. It's strong, still strong. And then we move on to Lucius. Now, this is probably my second favorite choice of the two, or of the options here, just because of it's going to be for a very different reason. Whereas Mars, you're going to lean to maybe possibly an infantry heavy army and very shooty heavy. Lucius is has a lot of potential for kind of getting up in your opponent's grill and doing some punching them, doing some damage. But there's some really cool little synergies and ways to get your stuff up the table really quickly, and it really weighs into some melee potential here. So you'll see that the AdMech are slowly kind of swung towards being a very heavy melee unit, and we see an incarnation of something that was in, I think it was in 7th edition. We had some really nasty little shenanigans you can get up to with some Adeptus Mechanicus Castellan robots, and we see it come back here unless it gets FAQ'd. So I digress. Solar Blessing. Each time an attack with a damage characteristic of 1 is allocated to this model, a model with this dogma, add 1 to the armor save. Yeah. That's pretty good. I mean, that's going to make your small little guys very... yeah, they're going to be tanky against a lot of the stuff that wants to be targeting them, right? I mean, damage characteristic of 1 is a lot of the small arms fire that's going to be directed towards your infantry. So with some Canticles or with some Doctrinas, which we'll discuss, that's the new rule for the newer rule for the Scutari. But what that's going to do is allow you to get some crazy armor saves up for those early rounds in the game. And then they also have add 3 inches to range characteristics of weapons that models in this dogma are equipped with. So that's going to help with your shorter ranged weapons. It's going to help with, I mean, when it comes to rapid fire, you're really only gaining 1 inch on most of your weapons with that, just because it's, it's cut in half for rapid fire. But if you're looking at like Vanguard, I mean, 3 inches on their the radium is it's nothing to scoff at. So it's a good rule. Their warlord trait, Luminescent Blessing, is amazing. In your command phase, select 1 Lucius core unit within 9 inches of the warlord until the start of your next command phase. Each time an attack is made against this or that unit, an unmodified wound roll of 1 to 3 for that attack fails, irrespective of any abilities that the weapon or the model making the attack may have. Really strong. I mean, it's transhuman for Marine players out there. That's that's going to be really nasty on like a big blob of Rangers or Vanguard, or I mean, really, it's a Lucius core unit, so you can really use it when you need it. And it's 9 inches range, so it's pretty good. Solar Flare, Unreal Relic. This thing, so Lucius model only once per battle in your movement phase. The bearer can use this relic. If it does so, the bearer's unit and up to 1 friendly Lucius core unit within 3 inches of the bearer can be removed from the battlefield and set back anywhere on the battlefield. Set back up anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 inches away. So this is, this is a great relic. And I think if you're taking Lucius, you're taking this. I think it's just like, it's an auto include. What's really kind of, we'll get into this as we go on, but in specific units, but the Lucius core keyword, I mean, all your Scutari stuff is going to have the core keyword. You're not gaining it on your Cataphrons. That was kind of leaked early on for all of you people paying attention to rumors and who have dove into other reviews. You know that was a big part of a big hit to us. We were kind of, anyways, it just hurts. It hurts the unit for sure. But so they're not going to be the target with this. But there's some great other targets with this because there is a way to give your Castellan robots the core keyword. And this is essentially Veil of Darkness. It can be used turn 1 pending any FAQs. It can be used on Castellan robots if they have the core keyword, which you can give them pending FAQs. So if that sticks around, great. If not, still good and still going to get some use. Legio Teleportarium, 1 command point. Use the stratagem before the battle during the declare reserves and transport step. Basically, you can put them in orbit and they can teleport in onto the tabletop again, more than 9 inches away from the enemy. It does have limitations how many times you can use the stratagem, and it's based on the size of the game. So your typical 2,000 point game, you're going to be able to pump this out twice. I mean, if you're combining that with the Solar Flare, you can have a lot of surprises for your enemy. So, big winner for me. I like them. And now we're moving on to Agrippina. So each time a model with this dogma makes a ranged attack that targets a unit within half range, the armor penetration characteristic is improved by 1. It's decent. Each time an enemy unit declares a charge against a unit with this dogma, if the unit was not in engagement range, you can hold steady or set to defend. So it's pretty good. I mean, it's when you're comparing it to the 2 before it, it's not as great, but it's still it has potential. In your command phase, so this is the warlord trait. Verse of Vengeance. In your command phase, select one friendly Agrippina core unit within 6 inches of the warlord. Each time a model in that unit is destroyed by an attack made by an enemy model, roll 1d6 on a 4+. Do not remove the destroyed model from play. It can, after the attack model's unit has finished making its attacks, either shoot with one of its ranged weapons as if it were your shooting phase, or make one attack as if it was with one of its melee weapons. It's only a single attack though, as if it were the fight phase. Yeah, after resolving these attacks, the model's destroyed. It's good. I mean, if it's used on the right unit, it's going to be strong. But otherwise, there's probably going to be ones that are better than that. The Eye of Xi Lexum. So at the start of your shooting phase, select one vehicle unit within 18 inches of the bearer. Until the end of the phase, the bearer gains the following ability. They're going to gain this special roll, and it's an aura. While a friendly Agrippina core or Agrippina, don't know, I'm struggling with that one so much, Cataphren Servitor's unit within 6 inches of the model, each time a model in that unit makes an attack that targets a selected vehicle unit, you can reroll wound roll. Pretty good, and that's definitely going to help buff. It's one of very few buffs for Cataphren Servitors in this book. So yeah, it could be great. I mean, if you're fighting Arc against a vehicle and then you have that as well, very dead vehicle. Yeah, that'll be strong. And then we have Indentured Machine. So one command point, use this stratagem before the battle. Select one Agrippina Cataphren Servitors unit from your army. Add 1 to the toughness characteristics models in this unit. A unit can only be selected for the stratagem once. You can only use this stratagem, and you can only use it a certain amount of times depending on the size of the game. Again, you can use it twice in your typical size game. So, yeah, it's strong. I mean, T6... Cataphrons is great. So clearly, if you're looking, just even reading through all of these rules for this specific Forge World, I mean, it's pretty clear that they're leaning towards you want to throw Cataphrons on the table, or lots of them. This is probably going to be one of your favored Forge Worlds. So. And then we have Graia. These guys are sort of your anti-psychic. These guys are probably the best choice to pair off against armies like Grey Knights and Thousand Suns, just because they have some psychic protection. Maybe even Nids. You've got their Dogma, which is refusal to yield. Each time a combat attrition test is taken for this unit, taken for a unit with this Dogma, it's auto-passed. Great. Each time a model with this Dogma would lose a wound as a result of a mortal wound, roll 1d6 on a 5+, that wound is not lost. Pretty crazy. Yeah, you can get some beefy units in your army with that ability. I mean, a lot of armies have that, but it's a command point to use it. We also have it, but ours is better and it's 4+. But anyways, moving on. Warlord trait, Mantra of Discipline. In your opponent's charge phase at the start of the Heroic Convention step, select one friendly Graia core unit within 9 inches of this Warlord until the end of the phase. If that unit is within 6 inches horizontally and 5 inches vertically of any enemy unit, it is eligible to perform Heroic Intervention as if it were a character unit. Okay. And each time a model in that unit makes a Heroic Convention, it can move up to 6 inches. All right. So we got Skitarii that want to be Space Wolves. Sweet. These guys are, I mean, that's interesting. That's very situational, but so far we're off to an interesting start with these guys. They are an option. I mean, if you play against a meta, or in your local meta you're playing against a lot of psyker stuff, you're definitely going to want to look at these guys, or just armies with a lot of mortal wound output as well. And then Arcana Mechanicum, so this is the relic, this Cerebral Techno Miter. So we've got Graia Tech Priest only. Add 3 inches to the range of the bearer's aura abilities to a maximum of 9 inches. Each time this bearer uses an ability in your command phase that specifies a range, you can add 3 inches to the range of that ability, again to a maximum of 9 inches. Pretty good. Extra range on your ores is not a bad thing. That was kind of Call's ability last codex, but his warlord trait. Steel, Mind, Iron, Logic. 1 command point. Use the stratagem in your opponent's psychic phase. When an enemy psychic attempts to manifest a psychic power within 18 inches of Gaia units from your army, roll 1d6 on a 4+. That psychic player power is denied. Just on a 4+. Boom. No, you can't cast that. I don't want you to. Yeah, pretty cool. And then we have Styges. So Styges are your stealthy lads. They did a little bit of rework on their rules, but it hasn't changed significantly. Each time a range attack targets a vehicle unit, and that's excluding units with the core keyword, this dogma. Basically, with outside of 18 inches, they're going to gain the benefit of dense cover against those attacks. And then each time a range attack is targeting a unit, excluding vehicles units without the core keyword, with this dogma, if the attacker is more than 12 inches away, then the target is treated as having benefits of dense cover. So, yeah, it's not bad. I mean, you may end up using that. I'm not sure. And then we have the Veiled Hunter. At the start of the first battle round, you can select up to 2 friendly Styges units wholly within your deployment zone. Remove those units from the battlefield and set them up anywhere on the battlefield that is wholly within your deployment zone. That's pretty great. If any of those units can be placed into strategic reserves, then you can choose to put them in strategic reserves instead, or remove them from the table and put them in strategic reserve. And it doesn't cost you any points to do so. CPs. That's pretty good. And you roll off with your opponent if you both have that ability. It's very good for kind of messing with your opponent's head. Especially if they think you're committing to like one table quarter or a specific objective, and then you're flipping the script on them and making them think that you're going another way. It's very interesting, especially if they can't react. And then we have the Omnissiah's Hand. So this is Styges model only. Once per battle at the end of the fight phase, you can use this relic. If you do so, roll 1d6 for each enemy unit within 12 inches of the bearer. On a 2 to 5, that enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound. On a 6, that enemy suffers d3 mortal wounds. Yeah, I'm gonna flat out say that's hot garbage. No, don't do it. Clandestine Infiltration, 1 command point. Use this stratagem during deployment. Select 1 Styges core infantry unit from your army. When you set that unit up, it can be set up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches away from the enemy deployment zone, and any enemy models. Strong. Yeah, they're definitely the mess with your opponent's head. I mean, but at the same time, you have the abilities to do similar things with Lucius. And it's teleport, and I think ultimately their dogmas are stronger. So I don't know. Again, I think Lucius is still going to be in my number 2 here. Ryza, I mean, these guys are definitely melee focused. Their dogmas, each time model with this dogma makes a melee attack. If it made a charge move, was charged, or performed a heroic intervention, so basically the first round of combat, add 1 to the attack's wound roll. Solid. Yeah, that's great. I mean, Blood Angels players know how great that is. So, add 1 inch to the charge rolls made for units with the dogma as well, which is pretty strong, especially when you get some stuff that's popping up right up in your opponent's face. So, and there's a canticle also that allows you to re-roll your charges as well. Or is it I think it's roll 3d6. We'll get to it in a second, but I think it's roll 3d6, take the highest. So pretty strong. At the start of your fight phase, select 1 friendly Rise Core unit within 6 inches of this warlord. Until the start of the next fight phase, each time a model in that unit makes a melee attack, the arm penetration characteristic of that attack is improved by 1. It's good. It's very, very, very good. Where that's going to be really scary is if you're stacking it with infiltrators, which have some great stratagem support and just amazing weapons. I mean, with the taser goads, the exploding hits, and then you got high strength, and you can buff the strength even more, and you can buff the AP on the weapon. Yeah, you can get some great stratagems with that, and then you also factor in the +1 to wound. I mean, whoo. And then we have the Weapon XCIX. So this is their relic. Now, it's for Volkite only, blaster only, so it's going to be on your Dominus, but it's replacing their Volkite blaster. It's range 24 inches, heavy 3, strength 7, AP -2, damage 2, and each time an attack is made with this weapon on an unmodified wound roll of 6, that attack inflicts 2 mortal wounds in addition to any normal damage. If you're struggling to find a relic that you want to take, then yeah, sure. I think there's definitely going to be some options that win out over that personally. So still, I mean, it's a matter of preference, I think. And then we have the Plasma Specialists. So 2 command point, everybody knows and loves or hates this stratagem. So in the shooting phase, when a rise a unit is selected to shoot, so again, that can be Cataphren destroyers with plasma, until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack with a plasma weapon, add 1 to the damage characteristic of that attack. The thing with this stratagem now is that that is pretty much the Cataphren destroyers is going to be the unit that you're targeting with this. There's only 2 real sources of plasma in this whole codex, and they've reduced how many plasma weapons, spoiler alert, you can take in your Vanguard and Ranger squads. So, I mean, it's not that you can take less special weapons, it's that you need to take a variety now if you want to take a bunch of special weapons. So, yeah, I'm not exactly, yeah, that you basically are only going, if you're going Ryza, you want to include destroyers, Cataphren destroyers with plasma. You're going to want to really lean into that, the melee focus of that army. That's just simple. That's it. Metallica. So these guys are still interesting. Models with this dogma do not suffer the penalty to hit rolls incurred for firing assault weapons if they, in the turn that they advanced, and they also don't get the penalty to their heavy weapons in the turn that they moved. And while an enemy unit was within engagement range of a unit from your army, with this dogma, the enemy unit is treated as being below half strength. So these guys, I think there's a couple sources, to be honest, to get the ability to move and shoot your heavy weapons, assault weapons, and not have the penalties related to them. This is going to save you a couple CPs on some units. It's really not going to affect all of your army. It's going to affect your infantry mostly. And it's going to be kind of leaning towards taking Vanguard with the plasma, because the plasma is the assault weapon now. Well, I mean, it always was, but it's 30-inch range now, so it's kind of it's in a weird place. I mean, a good place, but a weird place. It just, the synergies, the range synergies are all out of whack a little bit, I think. But anyways, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see if what happens with these guys, if they get a lot of playtime. I like them. I think that's a strong rule, and it is going to save you some CPs. It's going to save you some turns of basically having to pop specific doctrinas doctrinas, or using specific Skitarii warlord traits, stuff like that. Anyways, moving on, they've got the adamantine arm. This is kind of a weird one. So it's any Metallica model only, any character that could take a relic. The bearer is equipped with this relic in addition to their own weapon, so it doesn't replace anything. It's a melee weapon, strength ×3, AP -3, damage 4. Each time the bearer fights, no more than 1 attack can be made with this weapon, so only 1 attack. Each time the attack with this weapon, add 1 to the attack's hit roll. So you're going to put it on a high weapon skill character, and kind of make 1 Hail Mary shot with it, but it's only damage 4, so is it really worth it? You don't want most of your Adeptus or your Mechanicus characters in melee anyways, ideally. I mean, there are some ways to make them better. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of yeah, I don't see that happening. Deafening Assault. Use a stratagem in the shooting phase. When a Metallica unit from your army is selected to shoot with, select one enemy unit, excluding vehicle units within 12 inches of that unit. Until the start of your next turn, have the move characteristics models in that enemy unit. And that enemy unit cannot fire Overwatch or set to defend. So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, they have a place. They've got some. There's something here. I'd have to. I mean, I think I'd need to really play test them to get the most out of them. And you'd have to have a very specific army. I think you'd have to have very specific unit choices for this this list. They're not as flexible, I'm going to say. Okay, so now we get into our Distant Forge Worlds. I'm not going to go through every single one of these guys. Simply put, they're not bad. They're not great. You are going to lose the ability to take relics. The Forge World specific relics or warlord traits, which are all very good. I think there's very good options within the regular ones. Whereas these, you're really going to be spamming specific units if you're taking these, I think. They have two parts. They have a primary, and then you have to choose one of the secondary ones. There's some kind of interesting ones. I mean, so looking at this one, let's take a look at the first one here, the Rad Saturated Forge World. Radiant Discipline. Each time a ranged attack targets a core unit in this dogma, if the attacker is more than 12 inches away, subtract 1 from the strength characteristic of that attack. Yeah, it's pretty. It's more than 12 inches away. I mean, it's good. But then, I mean, if you're looking at, I think this one is, yeah. So Scarifying Weaponry. Add 1 to the strength characteristic and improve the armor penetration characteristic by 1 of radiant weapons. So if you want to spam a ton of Vanguard, this is a pretty good little combo. I mean, if you want to go heavy vehicles, I'm talking like full mechanized army. You could look at I think it's the Data Horde Forge World. So Mega Bond Alloys is the primary. Each time a vehicle model in this diagram would lose a wound, roll a d6. On a 6, that wound is not lost. So that's very good for defensive. So this is the Auto Savant Spirit. So at the start of your command phase, each vehicle model in your army with this dogma regains 1 lost wound, and models with this dogma whose characteristics can change as they suffer damage are considered to have double the number of wounds remaining for the purposes of determining which bracket they're in. So it's yeah, if you're going like full commitment to vehicles, you wanted to spam dune crawlers, and I mean that would definitely apply to Castellans. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. You're gonna have to kind of play around with that one, but and then you also have the option. They have the parent forge rolls, just so that if you parent protocols, so you can kind of customize your Forge World, but have them sort of be one of the mainstays as their daddy. Then we get into stratagems. So I'm not going to cover every single one of them. I'm going to focus on a few ones that stand out to me as being really strong. There's a lot of utility with this. This is your toolbox. You're the Dominus. This is your toolbox. They have some. If you know, I think this probably goes for any faction, but if you really know your stratagems well and which ones you're going to be taking or using, I mean, I highly recommend getting the data cards and having these with you. If not specifically just to remember what you have as your options, but you don't have to bring the whole pack, or you don't have to bring all your stratagems onto the table side with you. You can always pick through and find the ones that you're going to be using with your army, strategize, plan your kind of your attack, and have those by your side ready to go. All right, so now we're getting into the the various stratagems. So ones that I want to really focus on are the ones that have changed significantly, as well as the ones that are going to be like very, very potent when you use them right. So right off the top, I got to say this Dune Strider's ability is bonkers. One command point for Dune Striders. Use this stratagem in your movement phase when you when an Iron Strider engine or Cerberus unit from your army is selected to advance. Until the end of the turn, each time that unit advances, do not make an advance roll. Instead, until the end of the phase, add 6 inches to the move. Auto advance 6 inches. As well, the other two parts, just to summarize, basically your heavy weapons, your assault weapons. Your heavy weapons are turning into assault weapons, and you're not suffering from the penalty of advancing and firing your assault weapons. Yeah. Iron Strider Ballistari. Oh my god. Wow. They're going to be so potent. I mean, have 6. Get them on the tabletop. They're so good. Those Cognis Las cannons with the buffs to their statistics. I mean, everybody saw that, or most people saw that in the previews. I mean, oof. These guys are going to hit hard, and they are super mobile. It's also able to target your Cerberus units, and there's some really nasty shenanigans you can get up to with them as well with this ability. I mean, I'm looking at Raiders being able to snipe characters out, like confidently in a Mars detachment, especially if you're stacking like Wrath of Mars, and their hits already, or their wounds, already do mortal wounds on 6s. Now you're doing 2 mortal wounds on 6s. And then on top of that, you've got the ability to get really close to your enemy. This is a great stratagem. Assassin Constructs, 1 command point. Use a stratagem in the fight phase when a Sicaran unit from your army is selected to fight. If that unit made a charge move, was charged, performed a heroic intervention this turn, the unit, until the fight is resolved, add 1 to the attacks characteristics of models in that unit. Really good. Those guys hit hard. I mean, your infiltrators and your rust stalkers are in a very good place, and again, that's a unit that you're going to see in most lists now going forward. If you didn't see them a lot before, I mean, rust stalkers you basically never saw, and I've had some fun with them. I think there's some places for them, especially in like a Ryza detachment or a Lucius detachment. You can get up to some really great shenanigans with those guys. So, yeah, take a look at them. Okay, moving on from them, we have the Elimination Volley. We got to talk about Elimination Volley. I'll go back to Machine Superiority, but Elimination Volley has changed so significantly. It was such a great stratagem throughout 2 editions of Adeptus Mechanicus codexes. Now, Cataphron Servitors units in your army, basically they're getting on an unmodified 6 to hit, it automatically wounds the target. It's 1 command point, so it's cheap. It's probably, again, one of the only sources in the codex. It's one of the only ways to buff your Cataphrons. It's going to pair off with their secondary weapons. I mean, if you're using the, the phosphor or the, what am I trying to say here? The flamers. I mean, it's good ways to get some wounds on some bigger targets with that. But it's on a hit roll, so scratch that. Flamers don't roll hit rolls. Yeah, I don't know. Grav, I guess they're strength 5, so they're not crazy high strength, so that's a possibility. Elimination Volley has how times have changed. We used to be so close, and now you're so far away. All right, moving on. Machine Superiority, 1 command point. Use this stratagem in the fight phase. When its Katara unit from your army is selected to fight, until the end of the phase, add 1 to the strength characteristics of models in that unit. Yeah, baby. Yeah, that's great. Buff your Rangers up. Make them strength 5 or 4. And then there's another way, I mean, if they're Mars and you're getting the Canticle, you can buff up to strength 5. Surprise the hell out of your opponent when they're all of a sudden fighting strength 5 Rangers. And there's ways to make them fight first or your opponent fight last. yeah, you can get some surprises there for sure. Yeah, moving on from that, I mean, Benevolence of the Omnissiah is one I kind of touched on it earlier. We have Stratagem. We've seen this in multiple codexes. It's specifically the Space Marines always have this, but 4+ mortal wound shrug against mortal wounds. And it can be used in any phase. I mean, 1 command point. Most armies have a 5+ that have this ability. We get it on a 4+. It's on a vehicle model only, so it's important to remember that, but it's a 4+ wound shrug, mortal wound shrug. It's going to be good. I mean, yeah, keep that in your back pocket. Don't forget about it because you're going to want to use it when the situation arises. Moving on from those, we're going to get into these a little bit. These are just your base, like we've seen these kind of copied and pasted from other codexes. The ability to take, an additional warlord, warlord trait, the ability to... just basically these are the ways that you're going to spend command points pre-game to give extra relics, do these things. But this one is the one I really want to focus on, the Host of the Intermediary. 1 command point, use a stratagem before the battle. Basically, you're going to take a alpha or princeps model, and you're going to be able to give them one of the Scutari warlord traits. In my opinion, the Scutari warlord traits are great. You can use this 2 times in your typical size battle. It scales, so depending on the size of the game is how many times you can use the stratagem per game. You can make your alphas in specific units have these crazy good abilities that can also be transferred to other units on the tabletop. We're going to get into how data tether works in a few, but this is a really good stratagem, something to really look at. Binaric Override is there, 1 command point. This is the change your robot stance, but when you do the Castellan robots, but when you do it, they can't be changed for the rest of the battle, and you can only use the stratagem once. So so that's a way of kind of not having to take a datasmith or changing their protocols if your datasmith dies or is out of range or for whatever reason. I mean, if you're taking a datasmith, you're going to be babysitting these guys anyways, because that's the point of taking a datasmith. But just in case, there's some flexibility with that. Moving on from there, we have acquisition at any cost has changed a little bit. Use the stratagem at the start of the morale phase. Select 1 objective marker on the battlefield until the end of the phase. Each time an Adeptus Mechanicus unit from your army takes a morale test, if the unit is within 6 inches of the objective marker, it's auto-passed. Pretty great. Definitely different, but good. What else? We got Circuitous Assassins. 1 command point. This is... at the end of the movement phase, select a Sicarian unit from your army that is wholly within 9 inches of battlefield edge. Remove that unit from the battlefield. You can set it up anywhere on the battlefield, wholly within 9 inches of battlefield edge and more than 9 inches away from the enemy models. So, kind of nice ways to shunt your rust stalkers or infiltrators around the table, get them where they need to be. If you remember to just stay kind of on the perimeter and close to the edge and target units closer to the edge. Situational, but still good. And that's kind of a carryover from the campaign book. So and where else? We got Booster Thrust is interesting. Stratagem at the end of it basically tracks a unit from your army, can be removed from the table. From the battlefield, and you can set them back up on the battlefield anywhere more than 9 inches away from the enemy units. Yeah, I mean, it's a command point now. Yeah, I think the Taraxi, the sterilizers, kind of are probably going to win out now, which is I wasn't leaning towards that before, but. Chain taser protocols. Ooh, baby. Loving this one. Use this stratagem in your fight phase. When an Adeptus Mechanicus unit from your army is selected to fight, until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes a attack with a taser weapon, an unmodified hit roll of 5 scores 2 additional hits. Hello, infiltrators. How you doing? This is good. Very good. This is going to be a reason to take infiltrators with taser goads. As mentioned before, with some of the dogmas, with some of the canticles, the ways that you can buff them. I mean, if you're looking at running a Ryza detachment, these guys can take down knights, man. They can. You can get them up to strength 6. Well, just get them up to the point where they're wounding it on 5s. Now they're wounding on 4s, exploding hits, AP -2, just a bonkers amount of attacks. Do some mortal wounds on before the chart. Never mind. Nope, they lost that ability, but still, yeah, it's very good. Info Slave Skull, 2 command points. Stratagem at the end of the reinforcement step of your opponent's movement phase. Select one Adeptus Mechanicus core unit in your army within engagement range that is in engagement range. That unit can shoot as if it were your shooting phase. Pretty cool. That's carried over. That was always a tricky, a good command or good use of command points when you had a really strong kind of call castle going on. I always love to use that. And let's talk about these two. These are going to be big parts of a big contributor to you seeing a lot more max size squads of Rangers and Vanguards now at 20-man squads on the tabletop. Enrich rounds, 1 command point. Use this strategy in your shooting phase when an Adeptus Mechanicus unit from your army is selected to shoot until the end of the phase. Each time a model with that unit makes an attack with a radium weapon against an enemy unit, unmodified hit roll of 4+ auto wounds. Yeah. I don't know if that's going to get FAQ'd. I feel like it probably will get FAQ'd. Maybe not. It's great. Yeah. Lucius, I mean, teleporting in 20 Vanguard, all with radium. Maybe throw in a couple arcs to target something else, but still 4+ auto wound. Can't be a vehicle, though. Just remember that. Galvanic Volley Fire. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase when a Ranger squad in your army is selected to shoot. Until the end of the phase, galvanic rifle models in the unit are equipped with. Change their type characteristic to rapid fire 2. So at 15 inches, because they're range 30, you're going to be pumping out 4 shots per model with a 20-man squad. Yeah. Just volume of fire. Everything to death. That's great. It is 2 command points, whereas the enrich rounds is 1. I can see that getting fixed and going up to 2 command points personally. But even then, I mean, having one of each in your army and just being able to use those stratagems is very good. There's lots of utility. I mean, you can auto blow up your vehicles. There's lots of great utility within the army. Arc grenades, that's an interesting one. 1 command point. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase when Adeptus Mechanicus arc grenades unit from your army is selected to shoot. Select 1 enemy vehicle unit within 6 inches. Roll 1d6 on a 2 to 5. That vehicle unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. On a 6, that vehicle unit suffers 2d3 mortal wounds. It's a good stratagem, but I don't think it's fair that the Taraxia unit lost that ability. That it was removed and they were given the keyword and able to use this as a stratagem now. Again, they've lost a lot of their luster with me. So now we're moving into the Holy Orders. These are great, but again, situational. 20 varying points, 25 to 35 points. Depending on which one you take. They have progressive abilities, which essentially means they have the initial part and the advanced part. They start off with the initial part. You can choose to use an action in the command phase, which means that they switch over to the advanced portion once that's completed in the next term, in your next command phase. So a lot of these, it really depends. Some of them are really good in the initial, and some of them are really good in the advanced. Some of them you're going to be taking just to switch over right away and, maybe use your initial in the first turn, but then use the advanced portion for the rest of the game. Some of them you're just going to stay in the initial. So I'm not going to go over every single one of them, but just a quick synopsis. Each one of them also gains the ability to save you a single command point, essentially, by using specific types of stratagems depending on which one you take. So example here for adaptive mastery for the genitors. Yeah. So if you're using a battle tactic, you can reduce the command point cost of it by 1. Not for the rest of the game, just for that one use, single use. So again, saving you 1 command points. So that does justify taking them a little bit more, in my opinion. There are some ways to buff some Cataphren Destroyers. Most of your Cataphren Destroyer synergies are going to be, just Cataphren Servitors, not just Destroyers, it also includes Breachers, are going to be within these. So an example, biochemical aggression. In your command phase, if this part is active for the model, select one friendly Forge World Core or Cataphren Servitor unit within 6 inches of the model. Until the start of your command phase, each time a model in that unit makes a melee attack, an unmodified hit roll of 6 automatically wounds the target. So it's only on melee though. Yeah. You're probably going to find something better than Cataphren Breachers to target with that. So Hyper cybernetic physiology. In your command phase, if this part is active for your for this model, select one friendly Forge World Cataphren Servitors or Forge World Servitors unit within 6 inches of the model until the start of your next command phase. Each time a model in that unit would lose a wound, roll d6 on a 6, so it's a 6+ wound shrug. Yeah. Like I said, they're not. I don't find them like crazy good. There's ways to benefit from them. There's definitely ways to make some crazy combos, like with other stratagem support, with the Canticles, with the Doctrinas, and then combining these to make some really good combos. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of playtime with them. I don't have one that stands out the most to me yet. I mean, I think. Yeah, none of them really stand out to me the most. I do really like the overloaded safeguards for the Magi. In your command phase, if this part is active for your model or for this model, select one friendly Forge World Core unit within 6 inches of the model until the start of your next command phase. Each time a model in that unit makes a ranged attack, an unmodified hit roll of 6 scores 1 additional hit. So the exploding 6 is fun, especially when you stack it on like those radium and you're using the enriched rounds, or if you're using the galvanic volley fire or whatever. Yeah, it's good. Some good stacking stuff there. Then we get into warlord traits. Just going to touch on a few of them. And the Skitarii warlord traits, I do want to kind of focus on those more than these ones, but they're good anyways. Most of these are going to be aura based, but there's the Masterwork Bionics, which is the warlord has a 4+ invulnerable save, and each time the attack is allocated to this warlord, subtract 1 from the damage characteristic of the target. So yeah, that's the one that Belly is going to have. Belisarius. So first-hand field testing. When selecting this warlord trait, select one weapon this warlord is equipped with, including relics. Add 1 to the strength and damage characteristics of that weapon. Really cool on a Manipulus's flamer. Just a little fun tidbit there, because you can make those really fun. Necromechanic, sorry. Each time the warlord uses its master of the machine's ability, the model being repaired gains 3 flat lost wounds instead of D3. Yeah, this one's interesting. When you select a warlord trait, select one friendly Forge World Cult Mechanicus core unit from your army. That unit gains the following ability: Orbital Teleportarium. During deployment, you can set up this unit in orbit instead of setting it up on the battlefield. If you do so, basically you can teleport them in anywhere on the table. And that's a way of getting that ability without having to necessarily be using Lucius. So It's Cult Mechanicus Core, and you'll see that Cult Mechanicus Core. Unfortunately, that is your Electro Priests. Pretty much that's it. I think that is it. Yeah. It's tough because, yeah, I mean, that's clearly they're really, the warlord traits themselves, I mean, you're leaning towards Skitarii. I feel like this is Codex Skitarii, not Codex Adeptus Mechanicus at this point, but yeah, just the amount you're so rewarded for going heavy into this Skitarii, so it's going to be a way that people are going to lean a little bit more now, I think. So Skitarii Warlord traits, these are awesome. Again, mentioned before, you can give alphas these, and if the alpha has it, there are going to be ways to give them to units around the tabletop. So, multitasking Cortex. In your command phase, select one friendly Forge World Skitarii core unit within 9 inches of this warlord, or select one friendly Forge World core data tether unit on the battlefield. Until the start of your next command phase, if it was performing an action, it can still make range attacks without that action failing. Sweet. Big part to focus on is it's the Skitarii core within the range, 9 inches, but then it's also friendly Forge World core data tether units on the table. There's ways of giving a lot of different things data tether keyword, and there's ways for some of your units to be able to give other units the data tether keyword, so the units that don't have it can gain it. Yeah, there's like almost some slingshotting that can happen with this. It's very interesting, and the ability to use all of these abilities. So all of them have that ability. Heavy weapons, fire heavy weapons in the same turn that they moved, and assault weapons in the same turn that. So they're not gaining any penalties to heavy weapons or assault weapons. If heavy weapons if they moved, assault weapons if they advanced. Really strong there. Programmed retreat, fall back and shoot. Yeah. Really good. That's something that's probably going to be an auto include, I think, the fall back and shoot. Yeah, you can also make a unit fight first, guaranteed to fight first. You're going to probably want to take that on your infiltrators. So yeah, there's some really great options here. This is going to be a main focus. I think that one and that one. So the fall back and shoot is going to be a mainstay. I think the ability to fight first, that phase, is going to be a big one. Reroll advanced rolls and charge rolls made for this unit, and that's a Skitarii, Forge World Skitarii unit, core unit on the tabletop. Yeah. There's other ways of getting that too, so the reroll charges, I think. Yeah, some really good stuff there. As far as relics are concerned, a lot of them got renamed, a lot of the names stay the same. They're kind of copy and paste, but some of the abilities change a little bit. Raymond the Tech Martyr, got to talk about that one. Each time the bearer would lose a wound, roll a d6, 5+. Wound is not lost, so that's a 5+ wound shrug. In your command phase, select one friendly Forge World core unit within 3 inches of this model until the start of your next command phase. Each time a model in that unit makes a range attack, you can ignore any or all of the hit roll and ballistic skill modifiers. Booyah! These ones are kind of interesting. There's some ones that you can take on your Skitarii alphas. The Omniscient Axe, or Mask, sorry. Bear gains the following ability. Units within 6 inches, each time a model in that unit makes a melee attack, an unmodified hit roll of 6 scores 1 additional hit. Yes, please. You're going to stack that with your exploding taser goats, for sure. Yeah, there's some good ones here. I mean, the weapons themselves are not... This is pretty good, actually. So this is replacing a Phosphorus Serpentis. So you're probably going to look at this for your new Scutari Marshals. But Assault 3, Strength 5, AP -3, Damage 2, 18-inch range. Each time an attack made with this weapon, target does not receive the benefits of dense cover against that attack. Each time an attack is made with this weapon against the enemy unit, if a hit is scored until the end of the phase, that unit is exposed. And basically, any friendly core unit within 6 inches of this model, each time a model in that unit makes a range attack against the exposed unit, the target does not receive the benefits of dense cover against that attack. So it's basically, you just pop an aura from getting that. It's pretty cool. And then we get into the chapter approved roles. So these are some specific objectives you can take: progressive objective, end game objective. The Purge the Enemy one I'll talk about. Score 3 victory points at the end of the battle for each destroyed enemy model that meets one of the following criteria. The model has a warlord trait, has a relic, has a vehicle keyword, and wounds characteristic of 14 or more. Hidden Archivault. Before deployment, your opponent selects one objective marker on the battlefield, excluding objective markers on their own deployment zone. Score 2 victory points at the end of the battle if you control that objective marker. Score 5 victory points at the end of battle if you control that objective marker. So battle round and battle. Cool. Yeah, so I mean, they're not horrible. They're not... Anyways, some old reused cover art there. I love that picture. And then we get into the Crusade rules, some really cool stuff based around really fluffy stuff in the Crusade rules for all the factions, always geared towards their lore. I love this stuff. Yeah, I can't wait for we're just about to reopen here in Ottawa, so we're getting some COVID-19 relief, and we're going to be able to start having a lot more games, which means Crusade is going to be a thing again. We have our requisitions, we have battle traits, our Crusade relics. The weapon enhancements are hilarious. Yeah, these are really cool, and you can get some pretty crazy combos out of those for your Crusade games. But yeah, and then you've got your Archaeotech treasures, and then power sources. This is really cool. So you can assemble Archaeotech treasures. You choose one weapon part, one force part, and one Techno Arcana part. And then you can create some crazy, crazy combos and weapons out of it. It gives you, I think, yeah, it gives you an example weapon here. Super AdMech. I love it. Yeah. Oh, these are so cool. Yeah, as we're flipping through these, I mean, really good way for a new player to get involved in the game. And here we have Crusade Army. And moving into the data sheets and their specific army-specific abilities. So, as far as your Forge World's concerned, as mentioned before, if your army's Battle Forge, you cannot include two units from two different Forge Worlds within the same detachment. But you can mix and match your detachments. Yeah, so you're going to gain the Doctrina Imperative ability and the Canticles of the Omnissiah. Doctrina Imperatives are going to affect your Scutari units, where Canticles are not, unless you're playing Mars, in which case you get both. In all instances, you cannot take once you pick one, it's done. At the end of the battle round, it's no longer in effect, and you can't go back and take it again. There are some ways to kind of shuffle around with stuff and kind of alter these a little bit. An example with the new Marshal model is with the Doctrinas, you have a optimization and then a depreciation effect for each of them, and the Scutari Marshal can choose a unit and they're not affected by the depreciation effect of the Doctrina. So That's pretty much how to summarize that. But when we're getting into these, the Doctrinas are great. The Canticles are great. They're all going to complement your army specifically in certain ways. You can sort of, if you're not taking if you're taking Mars, you're obviously going to want to double down on everything. You're going to want to really help boost your opponent or boost your army's abilities by mixing and matching them. But as far as your army with any of the other Forge Worlds is concerned, I mean, your Doctrina are going to be targeting your Skitarii units, so you can pick something that really complements them for the turn, and then you can pick something for the Canticles for everything else in your army. So let's go over the Doctrina Imperatives. The optimization for Protector, +1 to your ballistic skill. Depreciation, though, -1 to your weapon skill. All right. Conqueror, +1 weapon skill, but -1 ballistic skill. The bulk work is really interesting. Improve the save characteristic of models in this unit by 1. Cannot get better than 2+. Yeah. Skitarii stuff in a Mars detachment running around with the 2+ save turn 1 is a thing. The only downside to that, though, you're reducing your movement characteristic by 3 inches. Aggressor Imperative, improve the move characteristic of models in the unit by 3 inches. Depreciation, you're reducing your save by 1. Don't really see that one getting taken very often. Remember that you pick these at the beginning, again, of the battle round. So, same with the Canticles. So, you can really take what you want depending on what's going to happen that battle round, who's going first, and etc. Moving on from there, we have the Canticles of the Omnissiah. Shroud Psalm. While this Canticle is active, this unit counts as receiving the benefits of light cover. Remorseless Fist. While this Canticle is active, each time a model in the unit makes a melee attack, +1 to the strength characteristic. Pretty sweet. Incantation of the Iron Soul. Each time a combat attrition test is taken for that unit, ignore any all modifiers. And each time a model in the unit would lose a wound as a result of a mortal wound, roll a d6 on a 5+, the wound is not lost. And if the unit has the refusal to yield dogma, I mean, if you're taking that Forge World, this is pretty sweet because, you're getting a 4+ wound shrug. It's pretty solid against mortal wounds. Yeah. Thousand Suns, what? Benediction of the Omnissiah. While this Canticle is active, each time this unit is selected to shoot, it gets reroll 1 hit roll, 1 wound roll, 1 damage roll. Awesome. That stacks. I mean, if you're looking at Mars with the 1 reroll to hit, now you've got 2. Pretty wicked. While the Canticle is active, each time an advance roll or a charge roll is made for this unit, roll 1 additional d6 and discard the lowest result. Really like that. And while this Canticle is active, each time a melee attack is made against this unit, subtract 1 from the attack's hit roll for Litany of the Electromancer. Yep, that's changed. Thank God, because that was one that you just never wanted to take. You just didn't take it. And then we're moving on into Datasheets. I'm not going to talk about all the changes because this is already a long video and it would be an insanely long video. I'm going to talk about the key changes and my overall thoughts on units as we go here, okay? So, Belisarius. No longer the auto-include he once was, in my opinion. He did have some significant changes. Most specifically, he did gain the Supreme Commander ability, which allows him to be taken in other Forge World detachments. His abilities aren't necessarily specific to Mars. Some of them are, some of them aren't. He does gain the... his weapons have changed a little bit, nothing significant. But the refractor, he's a lot beefier and he's a lot scarier. Like, I mean, weapon skill 2+, he can swing. He's strength 5 base. He's got the Arc Scourge with ×2 strength, AP -2, damage 1 against vehicles. Obviously, it's better. The Omnissiah Axe +2 strength, AP -2, 2 damage flat. Yeah, anyways, his base abilities, though, Lord of Mars in your command phase, select one friendly Mars core unit within 6 inches of the model. Until the start of your next command phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, you can reroll the hit roll. Reroll all hits. But it has to be Mars core. Cataphrons don't have core. Lead in Prayer. In your command phase, you can select one friendly Cult Mechanicus core unit within 6 inches of your model. So that's your Electro Priests. You can give your Castellan robots it as well. And select one Canticle. This can be one that has already been active for your army. Until the start of your next command phase, both this model and that unit benefit from that Canticle instead of the one that's active for your army. So, I mean, I'm not surprised if you guys see this guy in a list charging up with fisting Castellan robots. Melee-focused Castellan robots. I can see that because the ability to buff their combat prowess with a Canticle 2 turns in a row could be great. Master the Machines. At the end of your movement phase, this model can repair one other friendly Adeptus Mechanicus or Imperium vehicle model within 3 inches, so that's carried over. Self-repair mechanisms in your command phase. This model can repair itself. It does so, regains D3 lost wounds each. Yeah, so he's got 8 wounds, and he can repair himself, and if he has your warlord traits, I mean, he is pretty beefy. He's got a lot of defensive stats. He's pretty solid. The Tech Priest Manipulus. So the Galvanic field has changed significantly. In your command phase, select one friendly Forge World core unit within 9 inches of this model. Until the start of your next command phase, add 6 inches to the range of Galvanic, Arc, and Radium weapons. Models in that unit are equipped with, and yeah, each time an attack is made with one of these weapons, the armor penetration characteristic of that attack is improved by 1. Super solid. I mean, galvanic rifles going up to, you're getting that plus 3 inches. So you're now rapid firing at 18 inches. Popping the stratagem for 2 command points to turn them rapid fire 2. And now they're AP -2. Yes, please. He's going. It's just a weird thing. He's still increasing ranges, but he's now more specific, and the AP -1 is really just icing on the cake. He's a great model. I don't know why you would ever overlook him. I think he's just kind of an auto include. As mentioned before, with the I call it his flamer, but the transonic cannon, assault D6, strength 4, AP -1, damage 2 attacks. It's a good weapon, and you can make it stupid with that upgrade. So. Okay, and then we have the Tech Priest Dominus. I mean, not a lot's changed. He's re-rolling 1's aura. Yeah, that's the big change for him, really. I mean, not really at all, because that's not really a change. Techno Archaeologist. So this is your Daedalosus guy. Now has a character spot in the Codex. Kind of anticipated this would be, he'd be folded in as a generic character. But Daedalosus does still exist. I'm sure there'll be some changes to his rules. But as of right now, we get this guy. He has the Omni Scrambler. Enemy units that are set up can't be set up on the battlefield within 12 inches of him. So kind of good, like a little bit of a deep strike protection. And Brotherhood of the Cog. Basically, you're going to notice several of the smaller characters, we'll say non-Dominus characters, are getting the ability to not take up a detachment slot. So if you have a Dominus or Tech Priest Manipulus in the detachment, you get to take an Engine Seer or a Techno Archaeologist without taking a slot. So that's nice. Good way to get some extra characters in your army without having to take an extra detachment and lose command points that way, because you're going to need them all. He has the Machine Focus. In your command phase, select one friendly Forge World Core or Forge World Cataphrone Servitor unit within 6 inches of the model until the start of your next command phase. If that unit is Cataphrone Servitor's keyword, it can perform action as if it was an infantry, had the infantry keyword. They don't have the infantry keyword, spoiler alert. And while performing an action, it can make ranged attacks without the action failing. And then, yeah, Master the Machines again, so it can do repairs. They all have that, except for this guy, Scutari Marshal. New guy in the Codex. As mentioned before, he can pick a unit, Scutari unit within 9 inches of the model, and select one friendly or a core data tether unit anywhere on the battlefield. And until the start of the next command phase, that unit can ignore the depreciation effect of their current Doctrina. And then it has this Servo Skull uplink aura, which is reroll wound rolls of 1. Yep, we're going to be using that. Great little character, super cheap, totally worth it, auto include in every list, in my opinion, especially since Scutari are the way of the future for the Adeptus Mechanicus. They always were, but now it's just super obvious. Tech Priest Engine Seer, we've got this little guy. He is really good at babysitting your vehicles, and he has the Awaken the Machine rule. And in your command phase, you can select awaken one friendly vehicle model, but it does exclude Castell robot models within 3 inches. Until the start of your next command phase, each time that model makes an attack, add 1 to the attack's hit roll, and each model can only be awakened once per turn. Yeah, that's going to be really good at like throwing on a Doom Crawler, I think. Scutari Rangers, so I'm just going to talk about Rangers and Vanguard at the same time here because realistically, I mean, aside from the obvious weapons changes, Arc Rifle has changed to 30 inches now. It's Rapid Fire 1. Radium Carbine is 18 inches, Assault 3, so that hasn't really changed. Galvanic Rifle is Heavy 2 now, 30-inch range. Strength 4, AP -1, and lost its secondary ability, but I mean, it gained that AP -1, so far more reliable. Plasma Caliber went up to 30 inches, and it's Assault 2. Yeah, let's do it. Strength 8, AP -3, damage 2 when it's supercharging. Yeah. It's now synergizing with Rangers. A lot of guys are going to be popping off their Vanguard heads and replacing them with Ranger heads or magnetizing like I did. Pro tip, if you are building your first Adeptus Mechanicus army or models and you're building Rangers and Vanguard with your special weapons, magnetize the special weapons heads so that you have options to include them in either or units. You're going to see a lot of these guys on the tabletop because the unit size went up. So now they're 5-man squad up to 20. Just cheap as chips. There's going to be tons of them on the table. The Rangers gained the ability that they can make a scout move of up to 3 inches pre-game. So at the start of the first battle round. So you can kind of start them in cover and then pop them out to get them that extra 3 inches, or you can be really crazy and measure out all your distances and be one of those guys, not faulting you at all, because I mean, in tournament play you gotta play like that sometimes, but measure out all your distances and then kind of get out of range and then move the 3 inches and then move your 6 inches and move and shoot heavy weapons without penalty, and yeah, it's just super good. Or change them to rapid fire and then you don't suffer any penalties. It's lots of cool stuff that you can do there. Scutari Vanguard are just as good, and I think you're going to see them on the table as well all the time. You're going to see them, you might even actually see people focusing on them for an army, so it's going to be really cool. You're going to see a lot of diversity, I think, in Mecha lists now, which is something that was kind of lacking in the last edition I found. And they still retain that subtract 1 from the strength and toughness characteristics. If they're within engagement range of Scutari Vanguard, which is pretty strong. Breachers and Destroyers. Have I mentioned how much I'm sad that they do not have the core keyword? I don't know if I've said that in this video yet enough. A lot of loss to their synergies. They don't have a lot of stratagem support. They don't have a lot of synergy support with characters because they can't be targeted with 90% of the things. Still a good unit as they are on the tabletop. Like, they are still a solid choice. They did gain their save characteristic all went up 1 respectively. So breachers went up to 2+, and the destroyers went up to a 3+. They for some reason retained tracked mobility, but they changed to biker class or for keyword, so they're no longer infantry. Basically, that's just going to limit their ability to go up in floors and terrain. But they gained. I don't know why they kept the track mobility. I think that was just I don't know. Anyways, maybe there was a typo there. Let's fingers crossed they forgot to put core in there, right? Anyways, we'll find out. They're good. They're still good. The heavy arc rifle, all those weapons, they did change a little bit, so there were some changes to their weapons options. Yeah. Servitors, not going to talk about them too much. Fulgurite Electro Priests and Corpus Cari. There were some small subtle changes, but these guys are going to be the primary target of your, whenever it says Cult Mechanicus Core, which is, a lot of the warlord traits for Dominuses and such. Yeah, they're going to be your targets for that, so. Cybernetica Datasmith. This guy changed a little bit. He did gain the... basically, the way he works now is he can actually give the core keyword to Castellan robots. So he doesn't take a detachment slot if there's Castellan robots in the army. So that's kind of cool, because you want your elite slots. I don't think I ever filled them personally myself anyways, but there's a lot more potential now with all of the possibility of going full melee. And yeah, all of those, all of the elite options they're kind of melee focused anyways, so they're going to be a good option. And you're going to maybe fill up those slots now. Yeah, so he has the ability to change battle codifier. If your army is battle fudged, then each Castellan robot. Yeah, sorry, that's the cybernetic. It's the field reprogramming. At the end of your movement phase, any number of cybernetic Datasmith models in your army can start to perform this action. When the action is started, select one friendly. So basically, it gives them the ability to change their stance. And then it just says that if they're within 3 inches, they gain the core keyword. So there's some shenanigans with that, and I'll talk about them when we get to their data sheet, but with Lucius and pending FAQs. But the Sakaran Infiltrators, yeah, Taser Goads, they're AP -1 now. Oh, they're so good. I really don't see a reason to take Subcarbine and the Power Sword. I think you should, I personally think you're always going to want to go... the Power Sword is +1 strength, so it is bumping them up to strength 5. So, I don't know. But I just think that Taser Goat's so good. +2 strength, AP -1, damage 1, but exploding hits. And there's just... It's just that stratagem support is so good with them. Having the tasers go off on 5s instead of 6s is just crazy. Or sorry, 5s and 6s, I should say. And they still have the neurostatic interference each time an attack is made with against this unit. Oh, this has changed, sorry, slightly. 12 inches. Yeah, so each time an attack is made against this unit, if the attacking model is within 12 inches, the hit roll cannot be re-rolled, and the wound roll cannot be re-rolled. That's a super defensive thing in melee, because it's not just a range attack, it's an attack is made against this unit within 12 inches. Yeah. Infiltrating positions. So during deployment, when you set up this unit, it can be set up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches away from the enemy deployment zone. So that's, yeah, bear in mind that. While an enemy unit is within 3 inches of this unit, subtract 1 from the leadership characteristic models in the enemy unit. Because, they didn't have enough, right? Sakaran Ruststalkers are great now. The transonic blades have changed a little bit. Yeah, I still don't know what's the better option of these two. The Core Claw is going to get you net you that additional attack, and then paired off with the I don't know. It's kind of weird. I think the transonic blades might actually be be better now. I'm kind of mad at myself for building them all with the core claw, but that's why you magnetize stuff. Future-proof your stuff, guys. They have the optimized gate. Unit can ignore any or all modifiers to move characteristic, with the exception of the incurred due to depreciating effect of the bulkwork imperative, so they can't ignore that. And it can ignore all advanced charge roll modifiers as well. And then Wasteland Stalkers, each time a range attack is allocated to this model in this unit, while it's receiving the benefit of cover, add an additional 1 to any armor saving throws made for that unit. So I mean, they're going up to a 3+, plus with all the ability to pop them up to a 2+, with Canticles if you're Mars, and Doctrinas if you're everybody else. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It does kind of, I think it might make you lean towards taking 5-man squads instead of 10-man squads of these guys. Whereas the infiltrators, I think you want 10-man squads just because, just the volume to really annihilate something. Cerberus Raiders, I mentioned these guys are just... Yeah, with the stratagem support, the ability to pop the 1 command point, have these guys auto advance 6 inches. Pre-game, they actually gain the ability to make a normal move, which is, I mean, they have a 12-inch characteristic. So once you've deployed them, you can move them 12 inches at the start of the first battle round. And yeah, the unit can make a normal move. They can't end it within 9 inches of the enemy, but I mean, that's 12 inches. Then they make a normal route. So if you're going first, you deploy these guys on your battle line. You get the first turn. You deploy them in cover somewhere away, maybe out of line of sight, safe. And first turn, start of the first battle round, you know you're going first. You move 12 inches out of your deployment zone, then move another 12 inches. Auto advance them 6, so you're going 18. Yeah. It's crazy how fast they can get up the table. And then they have the ability, Eye of Cerberus, so again, they can target enemy characters and ignore the Lookout Sir. And it also includes that they do the additional, on a roll of, wound roll of 6, they're doing 1 mortal wound. In a Mars detachment, you pop Wrath of Mars on them for 1 command point for a max squad of 9 of these guys. And now, because it's under the power level, and now you're firing those 18 shots from their galvanic carbines, there is ways to buff this further. I mean, if you somehow manage to have an Manipulus nearby, to make them AP -2, and then, and also increase their range to, what would that be? Math is hard. Be 24 inches. So now you're giving them the ability to just pick out characters right off the hop. Like, I mean, your opponent can still keep them in cover and keep them safe, but I mean, with their ability to move as fast and as far as they can, you're going to be able to position these guys in a way to really target out your enemy characters. And then, I mean, with 18 shots, you're averaging about 6 to 8 mortal wounds, something like that, from the double mortal wounds on 6s. If you have the right Doctrina in place, you're buffing these guys up to a ballistic skill of 2+. If you can somehow give them reroll 1s, I mean, you can see where this is getting ridiculous, but yeah, you could really give these guys some strong support. They also do have the ability to take data tethers, so you can target them with the Scutari Warlord traits across the table. Yeah, I mean, or you could use the... Yeah, that's just super strong. Anyways, these guys are great. The Sulphur Hounds are also really good. I mean, they still have some some abilities that kind of carried over. They do have the pistol, the flamers. So, I mean, they're dishing out lots of shots in combat as well. In my opinion, these guys won out more than the Sulphur Hounds. I think Cerberus Raiders, again, are the better of the two options. That's in my opinion. Sterilizers, Sky Stalkers, The sterilizers, I think, are better in this. I always lean towards Skystalkers before, just for the volume of fire and the ability to do a crazy amount of mortal wounds with Wrath of Mars in last edition. Now, with the loss of the arc ability, everything costing command points now for all of their special abilities. Yeah, it just and they reduced the range on the Fleshout Carbines to 18 inches, not 24. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think they're cheap. I mean, they are cheap, so we have to factor that in. But I think the sterilizers are going to be the better of the two options now. If there was a debate before as to which one was the better, I think it's gone away in this edition. So, or in this codex. Iron Strider Ballistari. Yeah, I already talked about how crazy they are. I mean, the stratagem support for them, the ability to fire their las cannons as assault weapons, and I mean, they are assault weapons as they are, but the ability to auto advance 6 inches and still fire, no penalty for 1 command point. Yeah. You could make these guys just super, super good. And then, I mean, they're also gaining, they have the core keyword, so they could be targeted with auras. Just, yeah. 6 of them are going to be, you're going to see 6 of them on the table in most Adeptus Mechanicus armies now going forward. Dragoons are still good. I mean, not a lot has changed for them. Not going to really dwell on them too much, but there is the stratagem to do mortal wounds on the charge for Castellan robots or Dragoon models, it's any of the Iron Strider models, Iron Strider engines. So they do a mortal wound. I think it's on a 2+ per model, so a max 6 squad of those guys. Yep, do it. Castellan robots, gotta spend a minute on these guys. I think with the weapon changes, I mean, they now can take a fist weapon, a flamer, the fist gun, the fist, and a flamer as a weapon option, instead of 2 fist guns or 2 fists. So, yeah, the fist guns now, the Castellan Phosphor Blasters, 24-inch range. Their protocols have changed. I think, in my opinion, the best way to run them, there's going to be 2 kind of schools of thought on this, I think, as we go forward, but I think you're going to see guys running the fists with 1 gun, 1 fist, 1 flamer, or you're going to see all the way for melee with these guys, fists, flamer on the back, get them in, run them in a Lucius detachment, use that Veil of Darkness ability, stratagem, relic, pending FAQs, and teleport these guys up the tabletop, reroll charges, flip them, use the command point to change them to right off the top, first turn to Protector protocols. The weapon protocols now have changed. I mean, the Aegis is now, the unit has a save characteristic, changed to a save characteristic of 2+, so it doesn't affect their invulnerable saves. And that's their base, their sort of their starting one. Conquer protocols is now reroll charge rolls for the model and they have a weapon skill of 2+. That's the best one by far, in my opinion. While this and then there's, the Protector protocol, and that's, while it's active, they can't move, except for Pilot and Consolidate. Any models in this unit have a ballistic skill, and they have a ballistic skill of 3+. So they gain 1 to their ballistic skill. For some reason, the melee one, they gain 2. Yeah, I think melee is the future for Castellan robots, and I think you're going to see that they're going to be filling that role a lot more frequently. You're not going to see the Call Castle anymore. Not a lot to talk about for the Scorpius Disintegrator. Onager Doom Crawlers had some weapon changes. I mean, the army across the board has had some serious weapon overhauls and role overhauls, but these guys, I mean, they're going to still fit the same role. The Heavy Phosphor Blasters, 36-inch range, heavy 8 now, strength 6, AP -2, damage 2 each time attack is made with this weapon. They don't get your target doesn't get the benefits of dense cover. The eradication beamer is 18 inch. Within 18 inches, you can fire it at heavy D6, strength 8, AP -4, damage 3 flat, blast weapon. And the dissipated, which is at 36-inch ranges. So heavy D6, strength 8, AP -3, only 2 damage. So gains a point of AP, gains a point of damage, only, but it has to be fired within 18 inches. These things do move and shoot well, I mean, because they're vehicles, but I do like to move them up the table as the game progresses, so I like to do that with all my army, and I think with the new edition, you have to do that. You have to be more mobile, so you might see these things with a smaller board size. You might see the eradication beamer become an option, but I don't think the twin Onager heavy phosphor blaster with 8 shots outweighs the Icarus, which is now changed into a whole bunch of separate profiles. But when you take the option, it just gains all of those different weapons. I mean, all of the different profiles can all target different models. They also, no negative, they're only gaining +1 to hit if they're targeting a aircraft unit. So it's not a flyer, it's an aircraft. But, I mean, there's no negative to that. So, yeah, kind of interesting. It's they're definitely going to be still in use. You're going to see those as probably the prominent one to take. Neutron laser has always been my favorite. D3 +3 damage now. So instead of the wonky rules for it previously. I mean, it's pretty much the same thing, but... yeah. And they're strength 12, AP -4. So yeah, pretty cool. And then we have the Dune Strider. Quick note on these guys and all of the transports. Everybody has been talking about this. This is going to get FAQ'd so fast. So by the time this video gets out, they might have FAQ'd this, but it says infantry for the capacity. Obviously, people are being ridiculous with this and being like, "Oh, I'm going to take all of my, I'm going to take Centurions and stuff them in there, or I'm going to have them drop out of the flying transport." So it's like, yeah, guys, no, the transvector here. Yeah, because it's obviously a typo. I think I think their intention was probably to be able to include the Forge World, the Forge World guys, to be able to throw them in there, and it was just an oversight, and it will be fixed soon. So don't go out painting up a whole bunch of Centurions or buying up a whole bunch of used Centurions, because you're going to be disappointed very shortly. Archaeoraptor, Stratoraptor, Fuselov, these guys, minor tweaks and changes, but I mean, they're good. They're still good. You're going to see them get some playtime, I think. Some minor tweaks, but nothing major to talk about. Nothing major to talk about. And then we move on from there into weapon profiles. It gives you your classifications for what counts as what, as far as they had to specify between radium, galvanic, rifle weapons, things like this. And then we have our points values. And super sleek with the new Codex way of formatting. So really easy to just really throw your army together. You're going to see a lot of some subtle points changes, nothing crazy across the board. Some went up, some went down. There's some real winners in this Codex. I think at the end of the day, this Codex is probably my favorite release so far, just because, I mean, I am a little biased because Adeptus Mechanicus are kind of my, I've been playing them since their release, but I think we're going to see a wide variety of lists. I think we're going to see some real gems come out of the list building aspect of this as players get playing in tournaments. And I think as like an opponent playing against Adeptus Mechanicus, the variety is going to be nice. It's also going to kind of create this interesting place within competitive Warhammer 40k where I think all of the factions are starting to go that direction, where it's not just like, oh yeah, I'm playing this orc list again, or yeah, I'm playing this admech. Oh great, let me guess, call castle with Castellan robots. Yeah, here we go. And I mean, that's not fun in competitive scene. It's not fun even in a casual scene, it's not fun to play against that all the time. So I know I shelved my Castellan robots in the Call Castle for non-competitive play, just because, I mean, my buddies didn't really like to play against it. The guys from the channel didn't like to play it against it. It wasn't fun for anybody unless you're going in a tournament. Then you want to bathe in the salty tears of your enemies. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Thanks again for watching, and stay tuned for more content from Anvil of War Gaming.
Sponsored by...
Praise the Omnissiah, and praise you for hitting that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, guys. The Holy Tome has arrived. The Omnissiah has praised and rewarded us. Does not compute. Does not compute.